Hello, this is Leonard Rich, Superintendent of the Laurel School District, with the final video in our series defining our reopening of schools for the Laurel School District. It's been my pleasure to provide you with this information, and I hope that it is helpful. After the conclusion of viewing the videos, there will be a time for question and answer in a town hall in the not too distant future. So, having said that, let us begin with a summary review of our back to school plan. So, back to school, the new normal. As you can see, our young man here, you can almost feel the smile underneath that mask, but we have a new normal as we reopen schools for the 2020 2021 school year. I'd like us to keep some things in mind, though, as far as some big ideas. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. This country has faced several trials and tribulations throughout the years, and this was President Roosevelt's motto as America began to enter into World War II. And I believe it's appropriate to take a look at that and understand that the answer is within and that we can do this. Another quote that came to mind, another big idea that came to mind as I was preparing this summary is John F. Kennedy. And John F. Kennedy said, "My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." I think sometimes in today's society that some have a tendency to expect a lot and deliver little, when I think we all should be working to expect little from others and give a lot to others. And then finally, and this one was new to me, but I was searching for some words to address courage and to address fear, because courage and fear, quite frankly, are related. And I found this from Nelson Mandela from South Africa, obviously imprisoned for several decades of his life for merely wanting equality, and came to be the first Black president of a previous country divided by apartheid. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So some questions come to mind. What do we do? What do we fear? And how can we address it? Rather than ask the Laurel community can do for us, how do we as a school district do for our community? And the core of the community are children. And then how am I the brave man who is afraid but conquer my fears? It's okay to have anxiety in this situation. It's okay to be afraid. We're all dealing with it, and we can conquer those fears. I came across this as well, and it gave me some perspective. We have had nurses on the front lines and doctors and other first responders on the front lines to this, at least since March that we know of, and probably in the last October and November when we didn't even know. You go to the grocery store and you have entry-level employees putting their lives online to simply cash us out. We can do this. So I found a note to our friends that are teachers and teachers' assistants. We were terrified. We were not ready. We did not know what was to come. We did not want to change our ways. We couldn't imagine what each day would look like. We were stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed, and anxious. But fast forward 5 months, we are okay. We have adapted. We are stronger together. We are essential. We feel our worth. We make a difference, and others know it. We are proud to go to work. I know many of you return to work this week or will in the next few weeks, and it is scary. But I promise it will be okay. Be flexible, be strong, be creative, and be proud. You are so needed. Remember that now more than ever, these kids need your love and support. We've got this, teachers and nurses, and we will get through this. Just thought you could use a little encouragement from some people who have felt what you feel. Thank you for all you do. You make a difference. Love, your nurse friends. So again, this is a team approach. This is a community approach. It's not an individual approach. Here is your pandemic team. They are responsible collectively for what is our health and safety return to school plan. Cleaning and sanitizing. We will utilize safe options with low residual and minimal odor that may lead to other health concerns for our disinfecting and cleaning needs. The maintenance and custodial staff will be cleaning and disinfecting daily after dismissal. Our water fountains will be closed, but we are installing water filler stations. We do prefer that students bring in clear, sealed liquids, bottles of water. Within the school building, there will be designated a well area and a sick area. The sick area will be an isolation room governed by the nurse. When a presumed ill child leaves the isolation room, the school nurse will allow for ventilation, then proceed with disinfecting the area. There will be daily disinfecting protocols. Restrooms, door handles, doors, sinks will be disinfected. Door handles in the entire building will be disinfected. The office counter and other common areas will be disinfected. PPE will be provided for employees. Classroom disinfecting protocols when a student is sent home. So we have defined, okay, a student gets sent home, what do we need to do in the classroom? The nurse is going to notify the teacher and the administration. The administration can notify the building and grounds, and the space is going to be cleaned and disinfected. Social distancing. To the maximum extent feasible, each student may have an assigned seat or area. Only that student will be permitted to use that desk, chair, seat during the class day period. As we sit here, Mr. Sferbley is again going over homeroom lists, is again trying to create balance. We are going to assign seats. The students in the elementary school are going to travel with the same group of kids all day. They're going to have assigned seats in class. They're going to have assigned seats in the lunchroom. So we're going to try to mitigate their exposure. To the maximum extent possible, we're going to have one-way travel in our hallways in the middle high school. We're going to socially distance as feasible in the middle high school within our classrooms. The cafeteria, again, to the extent possible, will be assigned spots and spread out. You also, once a student picks a seat, they're going to stay there for the year to help for contact tracing. If you're not comfortable eating in the cafeteria, an additional space can be provided. Hygiene practices. We need to remind students of just some simple hygiene practices. Wash your hands when you can and as often as you can. Keep your hands off the face, and this will be reinforced by presentation and signage. Hand washing with soap and water should be done for 20 seconds periodically throughout the day. Coughing and sneezing should be done into a tissue or elbow, then followed by hand washing. And students are reminded and staff are reminded to avoid touching their face. We will have social distancing signage available and will be seen to remind students of how we expect them to travel and how we expect them to stay apart. And we also will be utilizing the school website to promote healthy measures. We are going to restrict visitors, and this is a product of the pandemic. We will have occupational therapy, physical therapy coming in, but we will not have parents coming into the building, and there will not be parents attending the elementary parties. We are going to limit the sharing of items. Students will not be permitted to share snacks. No activities will be permitted that include outside food. No food items should be brought in to share with others for classroom activities. Obviously, if they're packing a lunch, that's theirs. It's packed, it's individual, it's not to be shared. Elementary school parties will not include any outside food items that may need to be brought in or shared. No outside food will be brought in for the parties. Only the district or district-sponsored organization may provide food or any other items. If possible, parents may be asked to provide students supplies and materials for their children. Students will keep these items for their personal use only. It could be an art kit. It could be a play kit. It could be some basic school supplies. But the district will have resources to provide supplies if a student does not have them. When calculators, computers, devices are shared, what have you, then those need to be wiped down before and after each use, and it would be advisable for students to use hand sanitizer or washing of hands. There will be some communal spaces, such as lockers. Students will be permitted to use lockers. Students are encouraged to secure their items in their lockers and not allow others to place items in those lockers. We do have cubbies and hooks in the elementary school. Students will receive cubbies, hooks in the elementary school. Students will make a reasonable attempt to distance each cubby and hook where practical. They might be dismissed to their cubbies and hooks at different times. Our transportation. We are 100 square miles, so we will be maintaining the same runs at the same allotted times. We cannot add more buses. We don't have them. We cannot add more drivers. We don't have them. Every effort will be made to encourage students to utilize PPE on the bus. All of our drivers, monitors, aides will be required to use PPE. Parent pickup may be electronic so that students don't have to come into the building, parents don't have to come into the building to sign out their children. Now, arrival. Elementary students will enter the school as designated entrance points and go directly to their classrooms. Those students will be admitted to the elementary prior now to 9:40, and students will follow signage that encourage single directional walking as well as social distancing. Middle school and high school students will report directly to their period. No student will be admitted to the high school prior to 8:45. They will be sent to their lockers as directed by teachers. No congregating in the hallway will be permitted. In buildings, students may go to the cafeteria for breakfast. And so we are going to provide breakfast, and it'll be a grab and go, particularly at the elementary. We also have a protocol for monitoring student health and staff health. We've purchased thermometers, not that we're checking everybody's temperature every day. There's to be a self-screening by all employees and by parents of children prior to them sending them to school. But if you enter the building and you are exhibiting symptoms, including a temperature, you may be assessed by our school nurse. We will be trained to look for symptoms. We will be looking, and we'll be expecting some self-monitoring as well. Any student or staff that reports temperature, COVID symptoms to the nurse will follow up, probably advise you to go to your doctor, and your doctor probably will advise additional testing. If that occurs, then you will be expected to go into quarantine. All school stakeholders need to be aware of the purpose of these self-reporting symptoms and that temperatures and the purpose of the requirement. Maintaining confidentiality to the fullest extent possible if someone shows symptoms of COVID. Excuse me. There's no broadcasting of names should somebody be exhibiting symptoms or somebody should be addressed as having COVID. There may be a time where a student or staff member who is showing or expressing symptoms will be directed to the nurse's office, and then there will be a period of isolation and quarantine. If the student or staff member is sent to the nurse based upon COVID symptoms, that student or staff will be placed in the isolation room. They'll be assessed after PPE is applied by the school nurse. The parent, the guardian, will be notified immediately should it be a student. The student will be escorted to the car when the parents arrive. The parents will be asked to pick up the student as soon as possible. The siblings, too, will be going home for an isolation. Now, they weren't necessarily the person, but they were in close contact for over 15 minutes. Therefore, they're exposed. Therefore, they need to quarantine as well. Dismissal of students, staff, or visitors will be made with written documentation and education by the nurse. Discharge instruction for returning to school will be reviewed. Instructions regarding the COVID-19 illness, testing, and other return to school guidelines will be discussed between the nurse and the family. The nurse's office will include this triage area for any student or staff member that needs assistance. We will be teaching and reinforcing proper hand washing. We will be supporting healthy hygiene behaviors. We will be developing a schedule that will provide opportunities for daily cleaning and sanitizing of locations in the buildings. Again, all drinking fountains will be off with the exception of filling stations, which will be cleaned throughout the day. And all students have the ability to engage in remote learning if they feel that face-to-face learning with appropriate mitigation just isn't enough. So what's the deal with face coverings? Staff should wear appropriate face coverings unless a medical condition or other exception is listed in the CDC guidelines or protected by the ADA or HIPAA. That's the governor's order. That's the order from the Secretary of the Department of Health. Masks, face coverings will not be required in locations where staff members can appropriately social distance, 6 feet or more. Students should wear appropriate face coverings unless a medical condition or other exceptions as listed in the CDC guidelines or protected under ADA and or HIPAA. Mask face coverings will not be required where student can appropriately social distance. So, if a student's age or its disability prohibits the proper usage of a mask or a face covering, it will not be required. And that is straight out of the guidelines and from the order from the Department of Health. So again, if you don't have a face covering as a student, we will assume that you meet one of those guidelines, but please also understand that a staff member ought not come within 6 feet of you. Now, we are changing how we instruct. We are trying to do a 2-for-1 with our synchronous learning and with our brick and mortar instruction. So an addition to the plan has been Act 80 days to start the year. We'll be utilizing Act 80 guidelines to start the school year. Wednesday the 26th, Thursday the 27th, and Friday the 28th will be Act 80 days. Students will not be in physical or virtual attendance. The first day of virtual or physical attendance will be Monday, August 31st. Now, that will also be starting with a 1-hour delay. The reason is we are between now and the end of the second 9 weeks, the conclusion of the first semester, we're delaying the start of the school day by an hour. This will be both for the elementary and middle high school buildings. The 1 hour is a dedicated time for remote learning and instruction. The additional hour will serve many purposes for the teaching staff. In essence, again, we're expecting them to do 2 jobs simultaneously. The teachers are expected to deliver a brick and mortar lesson as well as a virtual lesson, while possibly even having to monitor a cyber program. So, our teachers want to be good at the unknown. The hour will provide an opportunity to reach out to synchronous students individually, differentiate instruction, or develop curricular materials that will align to the traditional lesson with the virtual lesson. So an idea as we conclude here. This is a plan that has yet to be put to the test. There will be unknowns that need addressed. The board did approve the plan. The administration will lead, train, and explain. The students and staff will execute. All stakeholders within the Laurel community need to realize that this plan may need adjusted as circumstances change. The Laurel School District pandemic team has created a framework for red, yellow, and green stages of COVID-19. I want all of us to keep Ben Franklin in mind here. He said the following at the Constitutional Convention held in Philadelphia in 1787. Thus I consent, sir, to this Constitution, because I expect no better, and because I am sure that it is not the best. This may not be the best plan. I don't think it's the worst plan. There's been a lot of man hours, thought, study put into this plan, and we need to try it. And I'm going to tell you that part of it is going to work well and parts will not. And I don't know which parts are going to work well, and I don't know which parts will not work well. But what I can tell you is that this pandemic team has put in their best effort, that the board has put its in best effort. The teachers are certainly going to put in their best efforts. So now we will work with our students and our parents because we believe they will put in their best efforts as well. So understanding that this is an imperfect plan, understanding that imperfect people designed it, I ask that other imperfect people judge it, critique it, give us feedback. But let's make it better together. Let's have some patience and understanding for one another. And as hard as you are working for your children as parents, I know these teachers are working hard for your children. I know they have a special love and understanding for them. And I know that the Laurel School District will provide the very best educational product that we can in this pandemic circumstance. It's been my honor and my privilege developing these videos for you. I hope you have found them helpful, and soon you will be receiving information about a virtual town hall to follow up with questions and answers. We all want to be on the same page when it comes time to opening school.